Hi. This is not going to be a terribly pleasant video, but it's a video that I believe has to be said. There are things in the Australian community at the moment that I believe are causing the biggest crisis that we've ever faced. It's causing the biggest divide in the Australian community that we've ever had in our history. Most people would be aware that recently there were 2 surveys done by Essential Surveys where roughly 50% of the people were in favour of a halt to Islamic immigration. Now, I'm not arguing the rights or the wrongs of that. What I am arguing is the fact that the Australian government, when 50% of your people express a view, just nothing's been said about it. It's just drifted off into the atmosphere, and I think that is wrong, because like it or lump it, there are things that we need to talk about. There is a cultural divide between small portions of the Islamic community and the non-Islamic community. For example, we had the roaring argument between Jackie Lambie and the lady advocating Sharia. We've got now people not shaking hands with females when they receive their awards. We've got young Muslim people who are refusing to stand for High Court judges. We've got Muslim youths being excused when the national anthem is being played. We've got it's not acceptable to say Merry Christmas anymore. It's not acceptable to say Happy Easter anymore. These things, in my opinion, can be handled properly by proper conversation, compromise, but we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're just dividing our community. There is a set of realities that I believe just need to be addressed. For example, it is a fact, the last I heard was 400, I believe it now could be as high as 600, young Muslim people who are being monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by either state or federal police for fear that they might do us harm. That's not meant to be against the good quality Muslim people here in Australia, and there are plenty of them, but it is a fact and it needs to be discussed. It's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars per year, and it needs to be discussed. There's also another factor, that Australia is $500 billion in debt. $500 billion in debt. We're paying $1.5 billion per month interest on our loans. 80% of our budget is being spent on some form of welfare. Now, when we're bringing these people into Australia at the moment, and this is not about anti-Muslim, I'm saying that we should be thinking about not bringing anybody to Australia because we are so far in debt. Because when people come to Australia, of course, as logic would dictate, they need support, they need to be nurtured and assisted along the way. And that's also costing us hundreds of millions of dollars a year. There's another thing bringing people to Australia is we've already got 800,000 or some portion of 800,000 people already now, 5.7% unemployment rate, people looking for jobs that can't find them. And yet we're bringing more people into the country. Regardless of the fact of whether they're from Islamic countries or they're Muslims, it doesn't matter where they come from. We shouldn't be bringing people to Australia at the moment until we get ourselves sorted out. There's one other thing, which, again, I apologise if this sounds like I'm knocking Muslims, because I really honestly don't mean to, but it is a fact of life that internationally there's a thing called the species survival rate, which means for every marriage you've got to have at least 2.2 on average, 2.2 children per marriage. This is a global trend, but here in Australia our species survival level has fallen below the existence level, and it's down at 1.8, 1.9. which means non-Muslim Australians are a dying race. We're disappearing. We're getting smaller as time goes by. Conversely, our Muslim Australians, the best advice I've got, are multiplying at 5 times the rate of what the non-Muslims are. What that means is, within a moderately short period of time in terms of years, maybe 20, 25 years, maybe 30 years, there will be more Muslims in Australia than there will be non-Muslims in Australia. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it needs to be discussed. And my newsletter is designed to provide as much information for all Australians to be able to look at the situation, make decisions on it, and decide what course of action. We either do want it or we don't want it. We need to get together and talk about it so that everybody can live their lives and come together as a society and move towards making Australia the best country on the face of the earth once again the way it was before. That's all I've got to say on this subject. All the best for the moment. Bye.